I am in a metro station at the moment. It's the early hours of the morning here. This is obviously the glamour of the World Cup beat. So there's the odd siren, alarm, message in the background. It's been a long day, but I feel like, just in case people think I've been in some kind of situation where I don't know, some kind of fraught, unusual situation, I'm just on the floor of a train station.
Black Stars shine, Serbia stumble, and Bruno's 1-2 punch puts Portugal into the knockout stages. We're joined by Daniel McDonnell, who took in 2 games yesterday, the first of which was a morning feast for those of us in Ireland. It's Cameroon and Serbia, served up a 6-goal thriller. Dan, probably seems like a long time ago now, but it was one of those kind of classic World Cup games that you don't necessarily expect much from and then kind of sucks you in.
Yeah, it's always the case in a tournament that there's an unexpected game that sort of ignites. Now, in fairness, there was 2 on the day with the South Korea-Ghana game as well. But yeah, I mean, not going to lie, like, it's the final early start of the tournament. When the alarm's going off, you're thinking, oh, Cameroon, Serbia, like, it's not sure what type of game this can be. You know, should I just bank and wait for something later?
Would you be missed?
Would you be missed? I mean, yeah. Unlikely to be missed. I think, you know, I could get away with not attending and possibly not be on the FIFA blacklist, although you have to be careful with these things. But no, listen, I was always going to go. There's enough of a sort of a League of Ireland martyr in me to, like, go to possibly the more obscure game and talk about being there. But now, of course, I could talk about being there forever because it was one of the best games of the tournament. But yeah, really warm day, like baking hot day. I'm not sure, again, these things necessarily come across. And the stadium was shaded enough. So I don't know, like, you know, the conditions maybe in some way can explain some of, like, the fatigued mistakes and how it became a little bit stretched. Like, genuinely, probably it's possibly the warmest day since I've been here. So that's one thing with those early games, that maybe in the evening time, from now on, it's like 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. local, and that's going to be out of the equation. But it was great, really. I mean, Serbia, to me, are an absolutely baffling international side. I was sort of writing about this in the piece. I mean, their record since the turn of the century is crazy. But they haven't qualified for Euros since the year 2000. And we know that they keep expanding it every year to allow more teams to participate in it. Or, you know, there's been a significant evolution in that time. But they've qualified for 4 World Cups. So, like, it's like someone who does, like, the really hard crossword puzzle and sort of can't do the simpler one. You know, the problem is that when they get there to the tournaments themselves, they just tend to flop, and they've from being in a position at 3-1 where you're thinking how many, they sort of have flopped again. I mean, they're not dead, but they need to produce something special against Switzerland, who haven't been bad. So, I mean, it was in their hands and they've let it slip, and but, you know, it was great entertainment. I wasn't quite like Joseph and Joe running around when the second and third goals went in, but I suppose for Pico Lopes, his old buddy Aboubakar left his mark with that sort of delicious lob. So, yeah, for an early start, it delivered quite a few decent World Cup moments, has to be said.
Yeah, had everything he wanted. The little finish for Aboubakar's goal probably helped with the fact that he thought he was offside, where, you know, they balls played through, and for all the world, everyone in the stadium, like, no one celebrates. It's one of those weird things that, you know, when you look up great World Cup goals, that could be one of the great World Cup goals, and every other great World Cup goal. I mean, you know, Marco Tardelli is one of the famous ones, the famous celebrations. There's various other great goals scored over the years, all of which have spontaneous celebrations immediately afterwards. Whereas this, he produces this lob from the edge of the 18-yard box, which was absolutely beautiful finish, and everyone just sort of looks around and stops. It was so strange. He did a little dance, now, in fairness to him, after VAR gave it to him, but yeah, it'll be a strange one to look back on and have to explain it.
Well, I suppose, like, you teach sort of schoolboy or schoolgirl footballers, you know, play the whistle. I think now, like, a version of it is to, like, just, you know, even if you're offside, imagine that VAR could give this goal. Like, you know, just always shoot, always take the chance. I mean, it's obviously a grey area because you can get booked for kicking the ball away if you take a shot. after the whistle goes. But now that you're in
Yeah,
this sort of uncomfortable area, now to be fair, right, I don't think Serbia can use that as too much of an excuse because they all did keep playing. Like they were trying, but
absolutely.
I kind
Oh
of
yeah, yeah.
wonder. I wonder would the instinctive effort have been tried if he, I don't know, if he knew he was definitely onside. It's sort of hard to speculate on that. If there's any sound effects here, by the way, I obviously have to clarify just for the listener, the viewer. I am in a metro station at the moment. It's the early hours of the morning here. This is obviously the glamour of the World Cup beat. So there's the odd siren alarm message in the background. Just adding a little bit of colour to proceedings here, but it's been a long day. But I feel like just in case people think I'm in some kind of situation where I don't know, some kind of fraught, unusual situation, I'm just on the floor of a train station, and the train station backdrop might just you know bit of a give us a little bit of a flavour of what it's like here. Because really, the one thing I would say about like attending this World Cup is that you spend a lot of time in metro stations, like big sprawling, grand metro stations. So it wouldn't be a proper World Cup effort if we didn't do a show from here.
That's kind of one of those, like a modern day version of, for those of you watching in black and white, where we've got people listening to this, or you've got people watching it, and watching it would see your splendid background. I was going to ask about it. It's full of World Cup flags. That's
Yeah, I think
what it would appear to be.
I think I've got Ghana over my shoulder. I'm not sure who I'm sitting in front of. It looks like I might be in a maybe a Mexican element. It's very unclear,
Mexican, yeah, I
but
think it's
yeah,
Mexican, yeah.
I'm not sure who's behind me. But yeah, I mean, said like these, there's still a lot of Brazil fans knocking around here. Because I did manage to get into the Brazil game.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing I was chatting about yesterday. But I think FIFA have just got to the stage now where it's like there's a lot of empty seats in these stadiums. So we're really not going to be rejecting media people from even overflow sections, almost to the point that, I mean, I went in, so there's a waiting list process that you have to go through. Get to the media centre at 9 a.m., put yourself on the list for a game that you haven't applied for, but you might want to go later that day. The whole rigmarole is earlier in the week, someone would put their name down and they'd have to sit around and wait until 2 hours before kickoff for the green or the red. And if it's green, you have to like sprint to the stadium and get your ticket printed and all of that. But I went in. It was around 9:30 when I got there because it's not first come first served. I put my name on the list. We've got some Brazil fans in the background here. I put my name on the list,
Excellent.
and within 5 minutes, I got an email to say I was in. So they've clearly just decided, listen, a lot of these stadiums aren't full, so let's just roll it out. Now I got there, and my media seat was effectively a media seat in the middle of the crowd with just a sticker with media on it. It wasn't really in the media section in the press area, but got to be a lot of Brazilian fans around me. They were belting out the anthem, so I noticed a lot of stuff about fake Brazilian fans, and there might be a couple of them around the place. But I will say that the anthem singing was very good in my area, so there was a sort of a genuine vibe to the Brazilian fans here. I mean, I'm talking about all of this because the game itself wasn't especially that good,
No.
but that's almost the thing about the Brazil thing. Right? People say the World Cup doesn't start till Brazil are in it. There's almost this glamour, this sense of I'm at a Brazil game. Like there's a sort of a mystique around it. There's a magic around it. But really, like this Brazil side, like the occasions are great, but the games themselves really aren't. You know.
Yeah, I think that's. I had sort of concerns for Brazil, if you like, where I thought they might slip up in the first couple of games. It tipped a draw in this game, and in some ways, it's like they're going to be battle hardened by the time they get out of the group. They're out of the group, obviously, but they're going to be. They haven't been impressive, but yet they've managed to win, and they're going to have another tough game because Cameroon obviously fighting for their lives to get through. But they have found a way, and like in this, it's hard to know. I don't know, Dan, if you caught up on a kind of a vibe about it, but like this sometimes in this part of the world where people aren't as big a fan of Neymar as they can be, or as they are in Brazil. Without him, for all the kind of talk you'd say about him that he doesn't, he plays for himself and all that kind of stuff. They did seem to miss him today when they looked, when they look around looking for the talisman. I mean, Casemiro stepped up, obviously, but the kind of flair, the bit of X factor that they're probably going to need if they're going to win this tournament was missing today.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to bring in Rodrigo and Bruno later on, and it's true, Fred did start basically in Neymar's place, and it was a little bit sort of flat. But then you hear Tisha, the coach, talk about effectively, they were very much, it's almost like listening to Trap or someone, very much, let's talk up the strengths of the opponents. You have to be careful about the opponents. And I mean, Switzerland are a very good side, pretty very underrated side. But I mean, it's about sort of having that platform in the game so you're not beaten, and then they've actually stepped it up in the end of the matches, and then they have the bench to come on, and they have a sort of a tournament winning formula there potentially, unless they they start very slowly in the game, gets a quality side who suddenly get ahead, and I don't know, Brazil, you've seen them. I mean, they got done by Belgium in 2018, and people sort of thought Brazil were creeping through it, and then they got done on a day by a team with a very good tactical plan. That was just Belgium peaking, as we now know. So I don't know. I mean, there's Irish internationals everywhere here. I did actually ended up watching the second half of Kevin Cluban, who's here working for Canadian TV, and he was making the point, and it's just like the classic sort of, the ex-pros eye, that Brazil, no matter what was going on in the pitch, they always had 4 men behind the ball. And, as in, there was even if a fullback went forward, Casemiro would drop back, and there was always a block. And it's maybe not as visible on TV, but you did notice that there was basically a real conservatism about them, which meant that you never really felt that they were going to concede. As much as Switzerland had a couple of moments, it wasn't like the chances that even France have given away or England have given away. It wasn't quite like that. So, I mean, you listen to the way they speak, and it's very much about the system. The system. That's very much what they're talking about. So I know you're saying it's a tough game against Cameroon, but I feel they'll be able to manage that pretty well, I think. And they move on. But yeah, a lot of stuff about Neymar naturally, and maybe the best of both worlds here, because I think if they've been sparkling without him, there would have been this whole Neymar circus around should he even be playing, which could have become a sort of a distraction in itself.
I guess one team with a talisman, bit like Neymar, who has plenty of controversy around him at times for selfish play, is Cristiano Ronaldo. Himself and Portugal were decent last night, but they didn't need to be much more than decent against Uruguay, who are now facing up against Ghana, and Ghana have a chance for a bit of revenge to put them out on Friday.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I didn't see all of this game. I was sort of coming back off the Brazil match, and I suppose saw the second half. I thought there's been 0-0. It didn't surprise me that it was sort of tight. Of course, Ronaldo didn't score, much to the disappointment of himself and Piers Morgan and whoever else. I mean, who else do you even think about with Ronaldo now? That's what you think of. I mean, the definition of greatness is when you're associated with Piers Morgan.
Yeah, there was a great line on commentary from Ali McCoy saying that he reckoned that Ronaldo got a touch to Fernandez's penalty.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. Did I read somewhere that Ali McCoy was praising him as a great header from Ronaldo earlier on as well too? Or certainly one of the commentators might have been doing that. It's sort of one of those things that when you call it, do you roll back in it? Because I'll be honest, I mean, commentary is tough.
As is doing a podcast from a metro station.
Yeah, it's a very good point. This is Ronaldo's people controlling any discussion around them. He was in the right place, wasn't he? He would have been ruled offside. If he had been offside, if you know what I mean, because his presence distracted the goalkeeper in some way. So he got involved. But to be fair, right, strip aside all the Ronaldo stuff and he inevitably end up going down that road. I mean, Portugal have been that's a pretty solid win. For a team who had that sort of crazy ending to the Ghana match, and they're playing a decent Uruguay side on paper, who'd probably been pretty underwhelming, to be honest, relative to the other South American teams, and they've sort of done a decent job on them. So they're probably a team that I don't fancy to go particularly far in the tournament, but if you can sort of get through this sort of group phase without a huge amount of stress, and you can rest and have the option to sort of not be too motivated by the last game, do what you got to do to secure a top spot maybe. Yeah, like they've with this congested tournament, a little bit of a rest for one or two of your better players can sort of mean a lot, because we go straight into the knockouts. There's no day off or something in there. They're really sort of cramming it in, and then you can take a breath after the quarterfinals. So, take a breath before the quarterfinals. So, like any team that can really take a breather in the third group game, it'll stand to them.
So we'll have 4 of the last 16 by tonight. Obviously, as you said earlier on, it's the end of the 10 o'clock games Irish time. So the first 2 games today are 3 o'clock: Ecuador, Senegal, Netherlands, and Qatar. You're going to Netherlands and Qatar, I believe.
I am, yeah. I mean, I'm getting a lot of strange looks when I say to people I'm going to it. Because you could argue, right, and let's just honesty is the best policy. You could argue it's the 4th most important game on the day, in the sense that there's something riding heavily on the other 3, and we don't expect probably the Netherlands to have any issues. But I haven't seen Qatar play. I mean, it might be the only chance in my life to see Qatar play in a World Cup in Qatar. I mean, I think unless they do a really good job on bidding. And I mean, would you rule them out? But it's possibly unlikely I'll see Qatar play a game in Qatar again. And I sort of just want to see that. I mean, people say that the games are just slightly unusual in their own way. They've got the hardcore fans singing the songs. Are they from Qatar? Are they from Lebanon? Who knows? We can only speculate. But some people have got really stuck into it. Would feel they have evidence to challenge the party line on it. So I do want to see it. So yeah, I mean, Louis van Gaal seems to be in decent form. He's thrown out a couple of one-liners across the competition. I saw he gave some journalist a hug. Probably shouldn't be in the press conference, really, but still,
No.
it was a, what would they say? It's in modern language, it was a classy gesture. Louis van Gaal hugs a fan, and everyone is saying the same thing or something. Like it was one of these one of these special viral moments. But I guess I'm just justifying my decision, but I'm hoping there might be a little bit of pull out a few anecdotes from it and a little observations that mean when I come home. I think seeing a Qatar game probably is the full picture. A lot of people saw them in the opening day against Ecuador and got their flavour of that. I was in Malta. There you go.
You could try and maybe get a hug yourself tomorrow from Louis. Maybe refer back to Lansdowne Road in 2001 or something like that.
Yeah, if you see me going for if you see me going for a hug with a manager, call my family. I'm in danger.
We'll get to predictions in a minute. But speaking of press conferences and that, there's been a bit of flavour with Iran and USA and over the last couple of days. And I mean, it's I guess a grudge match is probably putting it a bit mildly, given the relationship between the two countries over the years. But it's certainly flared up again in the last couple of days.
Well, see, it sort of has, right? But I mean, you're sort of listening to. I mean, you've got the questions which you would be suspicious about. Like, is this some kind of Iranian state media angle trying to like turn the scrutiny on American foreign policy? But at the same time, there's been some informed reportage from people who suggest that like a lot of the Iranian protesters would potentially look to like America now as allies. Like that they might look for some degree of support from them. So there's all these games around the game here, and I have to admit, like, I mean, if I wasn't going to Netherlands, Qatar, the game I would like to go to would be Iran against the USA, because I just think there's so much going on around it. Like the Iran-Wales game was a brilliant event, a stunning event, highly charged. I'm not going to repeat myself, but you add in the sort of the fact that it's a really, really important game for both sides. It's sort of it's the end for one of them, you would think. Can't see it be the end for both of them. So yeah, I mean, it's you can't avoid the geopolitical aspects of this tournament. You had a protester running on the pitch in the Portugal game. There's just you've had the Jurgen Klinsmann stuff with Carlos Queiroz, which we haven't really touched on, but sort of extraordinary as well. Where sort of Queiroz going on Twitter calling out Klinsmann with a sort of a mic drop line at the end about needing to resign from a FIFA committee before he comes to see them. So yeah, I feel like again, I understand that, and I'm not going to be hypocritical. We'll probably carry more coverage of England-Wales than the other games, and you understand why that is. There's obviously huge interest in England. We'll talk about them here. with guests, and we're sort of very interested with our progress. But it's not the most interesting game tomorrow for me at all.
No, and even we might get into our predictions now. I don't even on the pitch. Like I can't see it being a particularly interesting game. I'd go for England 3-1 with Harry Kane to get a couple and get himself going. I think the familiarity with Welsh defenders will be very helpful to him. I think they might. England tend to have like one game in a group where they go way over the top and how brilliant they are, and one game where they go way over the top and how poor they were. And usually you find somewhere in the middle. So I think today's game will be somewhere in the middle for them.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like Wales, right? I mean, I don't know, it's like the die and wasp thing or something. Like, can they be that bad again? Like, I mean, this is potentially like the last hurrah for some of these guys, for some of their big name players at a major tournament. I feel like, there's the derby element. Does it really go down? Did it go down that quietly? I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm feeling the 3-1 as a scenario. I can see England winning the game, but maybe it might just be a sort of a 1-0 that's finally poised, as opposed to being a comfortable win. But I guess we're both envisioning the same scenario, just maybe in slightly different ways. Iran USA now, for me, I find that one very, very tough to call because we've seen two different Irans really in two games. I actually feel like the USA might do this. I'm not sure. I don't have a real great basis or foundation for it, but maybe USA in a 2-1 for me in that one.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 1-0 USA in this myself. I just feel that they've, if you take the 180 minutes of the two games they've played, for probably all bar 25, 30 minutes, they were very good. They were well in the game against Wales, and they just kind of they got lost a little bit. But that isn't really the same for Iran. So I think USA will probably be a little bit too strong for them. Go with it, but it's going to be emotionally charged, whatever way happens. And then I suppose, without rubbing it in too much, the game you're at tomorrow, Netherlands and Qatar, I'll pick a number and go 4-0 Netherlands, just to, it's one of those games you can. It almost feels like a pick a number game.
Yeah, maybe 2-0. I see RT are showing Ecuador, Senegal, I think, as well. So it's that wonderful position of, it's very odd to be the World Cup game that not everyone in the world is watching. Like, generally, that's that sense of, like, when you have these staggered kickoffs, like, millions, billions, or maybe not billions at the group stage, but like millions of people are watching every match. And it's but then you get to these sort of group stage games where it looks the two at once and something mad can happen in the second game. Wasn't it years ago? Did England hammer Holland in Euro 96? But I have a funny feeling that wasn't on TV in a couple of places, or it wasn't on TV in RTE. I can't think who else was in that group or what the hell was going on. I feel like that game wasn't shown for some reason.
I think it was actually the final game of the group. I think it might have been Scotland and Holland, and England were playing somebody else. And I think if Scotland had got another goal, they would have gone through or something like that. You're right in the big event, or the tension was going on elsewhere. I can't remember who else was in that group.
I don't know.
It's not.
I think it was England, Holland.
It's normally an era I'm better at remembering. But
yeah, I think I have a funny feeling with some England. I mean, I could have rewritten history. Maybe I just didn't watch it and I saw the highlights. But I feel like England smashed Holland in that tournament, but it wasn't the big moment. I mean, it's possible I was out, right? Let's not rule out that possibility. But either way, I think Ecuador Senegal is still the good choice from the TV broadcaster's point of view. And I think Ecuador are pretty good. I think they might be better than Senegal. But I suppose, actually, I need to remind myself here. What's the scenario with this game in terms of Ecuador have 4 points, Senegal have 3. They just need to draw Ecuador, don't they? So I think Ecuador will get the draw. I think it'll be a 1-1.
Yeah, I think they might be one of those ones where they make a winner on the break or something like that.
I can see that. Yeah.
If that's kind of a 2-1, I'll go with a 2-1 in Ecuador on that. It's just to clarify that if you were out at Euro 96, that certainly wasn't the Oasis nightclub to keep getting mentioned, given that you were possibly around 14 at that stage.
It's a bit different in the Northeast, to be fair.
I think it's worth clarifying for anyone listening.
I moved on to adult discos at that stage, obviously. Maybe not.
Excellent. Listen, Dan, that's great. Thanks very much. We'll let you escape the metro station, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. That was Indo World Cup. Watch us on YouTube, independent.ie, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks.